The new Canik SFX Rival-S has a forged steel frame, a super aggressive textured grip, and the best trigger I've ever felt on a striker-fired pistol. This is the first time we've seen this new design from Canik, and it has some pretty interesting features. First of all, the entire frame is made of steel. It's not just a steel insert in the middle or a steel face. The slide is still aluminum, but it has a black nitride finish. This gives it a great look, and because the slide and barrel are both under 4 inches, this thing is going to be really easy to conceal. The front of the trigger guard has this little finger rest, which I really like. It kind of reduces the angle of the trigger guard so that when you wrap your finger around it, it feels really comfortable. I like this a lot because a lot of times when I'm shooting other pistols and I have a finger on the trigger guard just resting there, my finger will slip off, and then sometimes what ends up happening is when I'm trying to get back on the trigger, I'll miss the trigger completely because my finger is over on the side. So something like this, even though it may seem like a small detail, it does make a big difference for me. This grip is unlike anything I've ever felt before. There's no texture to it whatsoever. It almost feels like you're holding a glass of water. The grip is completely smooth. But at the same time, it has these little protrusions around the edges that force your hand to squeeze it really tight, and it makes it very easy to get a good purchase on this pistol. Now, I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but if you take a close look at this grip, you'll notice that it's almost shiny. It has like a glossy look to it. At the same time, it's completely matte black. I don't know how they do it. It's really cool. It almost looks like you took a piece of paper and you rubbed it all over the grip. So this is definitely one of the most unique textures I've ever felt on a pistol grip. I want to talk about this trigger because this is probably the biggest draw to this pistol right now. You pull the trigger and it's super light. There's not a whole lot of travel. It's very short and it's incredibly smooth. But the thing that makes it different from other striker-fired triggers is that there's a nice tactile reset on this trigger, and there's also a slight over-travel stop. So let me break that down a little bit. On most striker-fired guns, the trigger bar will actually hit the back of the trigger before it reaches the end of its travel. That means every time you pull the trigger, as soon as it hits the back of the trigger, it's going to start that reset. With this, because there's an over-travel stop, it allows the trigger bar to continue forward, and that gives you a more traditional feel. I think the way Canik did this was they put a little notch here on the back of the trigger, then they put a little detent ball here. When you pull the trigger, it goes past that detent ball. When you release the trigger, the detent ball catches the notch, and that's what gives you that tactile reset. Now, if you compare this to something like a Glock, where you don't have that over-travel stop, as soon as you hit the back of the trigger, it's going to begin that reset. And by the time you get to the end of the trigger travel, the trigger bar is already halfway back. But with this one, it feels much closer to a traditional single-action trigger. And I think the average shooter is going to appreciate that. So the Rival-S comes with 3 different back straps. You got this one that's kind of flat. It has this little indent here for your finger. Then there's another one that's slightly angled, and then there's one that's really aggressive. Each one of these back straps uses the same screws. All you have to do is remove 2 screws, pull the back strap off, put the new one on, and screw it back in. I really like that this pistol comes with 3 different back straps because everyone likes to hold their pistol in a different way. I know a lot of people who have giant hands and they just want a really aggressive grip. And then I have friends who have small hands and they prefer something that's very flat. So it's really cool that you can change this out to whatever you like best. Now, even though this has a 17-round magazine, it's only about an inch longer than the Rival, which only holds 12 rounds. Both of them use the same 3, 2, 5-inch barrel. So even though it's a longer grip, it's not a lot longer overall. I think the extra 5 rounds in this magazine is totally worth it. Now it does stick out a little bit further, so you're going to print a little bit more with this, but it's not terrible. You're still going to be able to conceal this easily. One of my favorite things on this pistol is the fact that it has 2 levers. Not only does it have the slide stop lever, which is really helpful if you're clearing malfunctions, but it also has this lever right here for the magazine release. Now, not everyone likes magazine releases that stick out. A lot of people prefer flush magazine releases. I like the ones that stick out because it's easier for me to press. I feel like I get a better purchase on it. But if you do prefer the flush ones, you can always push this one in. It does come out a little bit. You can push it in, and it makes it a flush magazine release. Also, the fact that you have 2 levers gives you more options when you're clearing malfunctions. If you're left-handed and you're having a problem with the slide stop lever, you can use this lever. And if you're right-handed, you're having trouble with the magazine release, you can grab the slide stop lever. It's really cool to have those options. I love how easy this thing is to field strip. There's no need to pull the trigger when you're doing this, and all you have to do is pull the slide back and press this button. The bottom of the magazine will pop off, allowing you to remove the magazine and the slide. Now there's no need to pull the trigger when you're doing this. Canik says this pistol is drop safe, and we did do a drop test. We dropped it on the floor, dropped it on concrete, and it did not fire. However, I would not consider this a true drop-safe pistol because it didn't have the trigger lever back. So I think that's really important. So we did a second test where we pulled the trigger and then we dropped it. We dropped it on the floor, dropped it on concrete, and it still did not go off. So I guess it is drop-safe if you remember to pull the trigger. But just to be safe, I wouldn't want to take that chance. I would just pull the trigger anyway when I'm dropping it. This is a striker-fired pistol, so it does have a firing pin block. So even if you drop this, you're not going to have to worry about the firing pin hitting the primer and causing the round to go off. Now, this pistol does not have an external safety. It's a striker-fired pistol, so it's always going to be in danger zone 1. And Canik says this is a double-action only pistol. Well, technically it's double action, only because you can't cock the hammer, but it does have an automatic firing control, which is essentially the same thing as a striker-fired pistol. I really like the sights on this gun. They're very large, very easy to see, they're night vision compatible, and they're dovetailed in really nicely. Canik includes 3 different sets of night vision inserts, which is really cool. So if your eyes are starting to get old and you need a little more brightness, you can swap these out. Canik says that this pistol weighs 26 ounces and it is completely empty. Personally, I feel like this is the perfect size pistol. It's not too big, not too small. It fits in my hand perfectly. I think it's really going to appeal to a lot of people. This has a threaded barrel and it comes with a muzzle device installed. If you want to remove it, you can easily unscrew it. It is left-handed threaded. If you guys want to pick one of these up, they're going to start shipping in August. It comes in either black or this gray color. MSRP is $899. Let me know what you guys think about the Rival-S. Is this something you're going to keep in mind? Are you going to pick one up? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.